This is not the video I planned to upload today. I was in a really reflective mood today on Mother's Day. I had a great day. I've been in my garden, got some sun, sat down at my kitchen table, and I thought, I'm just going to chat about this because Mother's Day is difficult. And if my mother were here, I'd want to say a few things to her. So that's what the topic of this video is. I'd love to open up a conversation about our mothers in midlife. You may not have your mother here. You may have a difficult relationship with your mother. Maybe you are like me and you have both. I had a difficult relationship with her and she's also gone. I lost her in 2016. And I always wonder if this whole concept of healing when it comes to your emotional health in the wellness world, is it ever really done? We're always on a healing journey. And when it comes to grief, hold on, before I go any further, I do want to say that if you are struggling with loss, if you are a mother who's lost a mother, if you are a mother who's lost a child, this conversation may not be for you. All my topics here are for education, conversation, and information, and it's not medical or mental health advice. So please seek help from a licensed care provider if you're struggling with your mental health, an eating disorder, or your physical health. Really is a chat for anyone who might be open to it, but maybe you might need to bypass this video depending on where you are at in life. I don't want to trigger any mental health issues in you. And my heart goes out to you because although I understand mom loss, like the loss of my own mom and the loss of a mom, I don't have the lived experience to even grasp what it's like to lose a child. And in this whole series on YouTube that I am making about living menopause unconfined, all of these videos where I want you to feel unconfined along with me with food rules and thoughts in our own head, I think there's difficult conversations to be had. Maybe that conversation is for a guest that I would have on the show. If my mother was here today, I would tell her three things. One, I forgive you, and I still forgive you, and I'll explain that. Two, I actually really see you now, Mom, and I didn't before. Isn't that the way it goes when you lose somebody? And three, I'm still kind of angry at you. And at the end of this video, I will also share a book that I read when my mother died in 2016 that helped me shift some healing. And I will share a book that I want to read, and I've got it on my Goodreads list, that I think is going to go a little bit deeper. And I'm not saying you have to forgive your mom. I don't know what's gone on between you and your mom. I have friends who have conflicted relationships with their mom, and I have friends who have no issues. They're best friends. Wouldn't that be great? I like to think I'm my daughter's best friend, but I don't think so. We have a great relationship, but I don't think I am her best friend. And you know what? Do I really want to be? That topic, the mother-daughter relationship with your own daughter, I think that's a whole other video. But I will say that Mother's Day has me reflecting on who I am as a mom as well. Forgiveness. I think this belongs in any relationship. They say you can forgive but not forget, and I get that. We can hold thoughts and memories in our subconscious and in our conscious and never forget. But can we let them go in the sense that we don't have to have the same triggering emotions about what happened as we did in the past? Maybe we can. And that takes a lot of work. I know for my own healing journey with my mother, I was in therapy. By the time I was 20, I had a lot of conflict around my relationship with my parents and really a lot with how my mom didn't want me to see my father. And I have a hard time talking about that because he has stepkids and I have a brother. And this is just my perspective, right? It doesn't make it right. But when I went into therapy, I was already starting to dig into who my mother was as, well, a mother. And it wasn't pretty. And so I walked away. And through the years, I have gone back and forth through therapy and other modalities to try and figure out how I feel about my mom. And the one thing I do feel when I think about her now, and even on her deathbed, leading up to her death too, is forgiveness. Now, there are people who may never forgive their parents. There are parents who have done some horrible things to their children. I'm not saying that you have to forgive your parent. Hey, we all got to live our life the way we see fit and the way we can trudge through with our brain, our mental health, our soul intact. But for me, letting go of the anger I had towards my mother, which I say I let go, but I've already said that I'm still angry. And that's just a little bit of a caveat there. I have healthy anger that I can still work through. But for me to say that I've totally forgiven her, maybe that's not completely so. When she was on her deathbed, she told me that she felt she was a terrible mother. And she didn't have the energy to tell me more. And I wish I asked her that. I wish I said, "Can you tell me more?" I would have liked to hear what she thought of as a terrible mother. True to my nature of not wanting to rock the boat in certain situations, I said, "No, you weren't. And that's okay. For anything that's gone between us, I forgive you." I even told her that I was a terrible daughter, which at times I absolutely was. I was a single mom. I was working. I had to care for her. She was demanding. I had to drive her around like any daughter. It sounds like I'm terribly ungrateful for my mother. But when I would do things for her, it just kept coming. It was almost like I could never do enough. I could never be enough. So I built up a lot of resentment and I did have impatience. I was perimenopausal, taking care of my mom, and I had a very short fuse. It wasn't pretty. And then I had to go home and make dinner and be a mom. You know, the sandwich generation, right? So I felt very relieved that that was out on the table, as minuscule as it was, before she passed away. Some people will say that someone may not want to pass away in your presence. It's easier for them to let go when you're not there, because she told me she did have a hard time letting go. She told me she did not want to leave me. And this just gives me chills because I start to think of what it's going to be like when it's my time and my daughter will be there. Fast forward to the spring after her death, and space was opening up for me. I felt like I had a little bit of room to breathe, but in that space, I was still grieving. And I was starting to read the book Motherless Daughters. If you've not read it, I'll link it in the show notes. It's not an affiliate link. I don't have an Amazon store. So you can look for it in the US, the UK, Canada, the library. It was an excellent book that got me started on exploring what it was like to lose a legacy, because whatever your mother gives you, I guess it is a legacy, right? Whether it's a positive, a negative, or a mix of both. And it got me to thinking a little more clearly about this relationship I had with my mom, because death can romanticize things too. I certainly know that from the loss of my fiance. That is the dog. I certainly know that from that loss. You can romanticize what was when what really was wasn't like that in the first place. The word forgiveness, which was my first time ever picking word of the year, had profound happy healing consequences to me. I would go to the local park here and walk my dog and just say, "I forgive you, Mom." But the thing that I never really worked on was forgiving myself for the kind of person, the kind of daughter that I was, caught up in a mother-daughter relationship that had alcohol and addiction and anger and mental health issues. And I was just this reactive child. In fact, I just found my own diaries from that time. I have not read them in decades. Decades. And I say that time, I mean growing up, where I blame myself for everything. And so I have done some therapy around this. I've talked to therapists. I've done Reiki. I've done tapping. I've done bioenergetic emotional healing. I have done a lot of things. And I know there's tons more I could do when it comes to my nervous system and grief and all of that. Some people might be looking at me right now and listening to me right now and saying, just let it go. Like, be done with it. There is no timeline on grief. What there is, though, I think, is looking at grief in a different way. If you're grieving your mother, you may always grieve your mother. And that is a lifeline, a mother line that you can't break that bond. I feel like it stretches back through the universe in generations, and you can't break it. But can you heal it? The second thing I would love to say to my mom is that I see you, Mom. I see you. And I really see you now. Now that I've come to this age, 57, where I see things happening to me in my body that happened to you, where I look in the mirror and I see her face, I see your face, Mom, I'm a little horrified, but I'm also a little more accepting. One other cliche we hear is that, your mom did the best she could. And she did. She did the best she could with the tools she had at the time. She was given basically nothing. She was given a surgical hysterectomy when she had me and sent on her merry way to go deal with a failing marriage and no hormones. So now that my daughter is 22 and I see her doing things that I can't believe, I was so much worse than my daughter. No wonder my mother was horrified. But I see her doing things. I can hear my mother. I can feel my mother, and I feel like I have so much more space for her than when she was alive. I think this is normal, but I don't know. In my next session with my therapist, maybe I'll have to talk about that. It's very hard to understand where our mothers come from when we are of such a different generation. I don't think I'm as much or in as much of a different generation as my daughter. At least I don't think so. She probably thinks I'm like light years away. But I feel like I spend more time, our generation spends more time relating to our children where my moms didn't. At least my mom couldn't. And now that I have been through the entire experience of having a child and going through the difficulty of raising a child, being a single parent, being a blended parent, I see my mom very differently. That doesn't mean I still wouldn't say, number three, Mom, I'm still a little angry, but I feel like it's in a healthy way. Is there such a way to be angry and be healthy? I think so, because I recognize where the anger comes from. It isn't just this, oh, how can you do this to me kind of anger. It is an anger that really feels more like a little regret. Didn't have to be like that. And actually, as I'm saying that I'm still angry with my mom, I might really be angry with myself. I was given tools to be a whole grown adult. I sought the therapy, I paid the people, I did the stuff, and I did not try and form my ways as an adult when I was younger. Maybe I didn't have the skills, but I was resistant. Because let's face it feels a heck of a lot easier to sit in the blame station than it does in the take charge station. It was easy to say, well, it's my mom's fault. And even at this age, there comes a time where we have to take responsibility for the life that we're leading. And maybe this is one of the reasons I'm here on YouTube talking about this, because I am realizing I'm not mad at her anymore. I'm sad. I have regret. I have regret for the way I acted, but I think maybe I'm a little mad at myself. But that's where learning the whole act of self compassion and letting go of judgment comes in, because judging myself for the past isn't going to make it better. Regret can be a tough emotion as well. And I feel like I can have regret for some of the actions and maybe for not taking charge of my thoughts earlier without going down a whole pity party hole. I know there's something in Brene Brown's book about regret. Hang on, I'm going to get it. This will probably show up wrong on camera, but if you've not read Atlas of the Heart, it talks about and unravels all of these emotions. Here it is, regret. Both disappointment and regret arise when an outcome was not what we wanted, counted on, or thought would happen. With disappointment, we often believe the outcome was out of our control, but we're learning more about how this is not always the case. With regret, we believe the outcome was caused by our decisions or actions. This part really got me. I firmly believe that regret is one of our most powerful emotional reminders that reflection, change, and growth are necessary. And I totally feel like this is part of my being right now in life. And there's a lot of things about my mom that I could definitely put in that category where I feel like I didn't make the best decisions. I want to say that I feel anger, that I feel regret, but I think there's just too many words to describe the whole thing. I feel guilty. I feel shame for who I was as a daughter. I also feel like her death was a little bittersweet. I feel like I need to finish this book. Then maybe I can put a name to it. I think the only thing left to be angry with my mom about is that I know there were nudges for her to get help and she never did. And I don't know why. I don't know why she felt like she couldn't reach out to a mental health professional that was prescribed to her Maybe she was embarrassed. Maybe it was things that people didn't do back then. But my mom also had, hello, I have a dog here all the time. But my mom also had deep pride and the need to be right. That happens to be in me as well. I have to be very careful of when I need to be right and when I need to just let go and be open to somebody else's opinion. Maybe today I am a little sad that she's not sitting across the table from me and having a cup of coffee, and we're not talking about what we really should have talked about. I didn't have the tools, and neither did she. And that time is gone. But what it's really made me understand is that that time is gone, but this time is still here. I have a daughter. I have a life. I'm in menopause. What do I want it to look like? And do I want to carry these emotions through? And I think not. And I don't carry them with a pile of rocks in a backpack like I used to. But every so often they come out. I still have hopefully 30 years in front of me where I can make my own memories. And what she went through can inform my own menopause and my own parenting still of adult children, where I can hopefully not make the same mistakes of being emotionally unavailable, of falling into a trap of addiction, and also falling into that victim place. I've got a couple of books I want to share with you. This one I've not read yet. It's Mother, Daughter, Me, and it's by Katie Hafner. So I've put it on my Goodreads list. You can come follow me if you want. I think my profile here is my dog. This book is about a woman who invites her own mother home with her teenage daughter, and she is trying to get through a lifetime of unresolved emotions. So I think maybe this could be a great read for you if you think you have some things you need to heal, if you feel unresolved with your mom like I do, even though my mom is gone. And I think I want to end this video by saying, I think we need to stop looking for the whole A to B, the A to Z, the linear line of healing emotions and grief, because I don't think there is a linear line. Here I am, 2016, my mom passed away. It's 2023. I still think of some of these things, but I don't think it's impeding my life. Some of you might pop in the comments and say, yes, it is. I'd love to hear it. Is there something you'd like to say to your mom? Maybe now is the time to do it, whether she's here or whether she's not. And it doesn't always have to be negative or positive. It really does have to be what's on your heart. And of course, there is a more tactful and probably professional way to communicate anything negative to your mom. But if my mom was here, I would say, thanks, Mom. I owe you. I really do. I owe you for giving me strength, for giving me resilience that I didn't think I had. I have skills from my mom. I can cook. These seem like mundane skills, but they're really important. And I want to thank my mom for the love she gave me that she at times felt she couldn't express. So when I go back out into my garden, I'm going to meet her there. She's going to greet me with the butterflies and the bees and the plants and the garlic, because she always loved garlic, and the herbs. And I know that she'll be there. We need to know that we always have a chance to repair a wound, to feel better, to say goodbye, to say hello, and that a certain bond, certain bonds like the mother-daughter bond, never really breaks. It can be stretched thin, but it never really breaks, does it? Unless you really need it to. I'm going to see you next week with a proper how-to video. Maybe we'll make some tea out of ginger for your digestion. Maybe we'll talk about why lymph is so important in menopause, moving your lymph system. But if you liked this conversation and you think we can do more of them, hit the little button below. Leave me a voice note. Give me a comment. Come visit me on Instagram. And maybe next Mother's Day, I will let you know. And maybe next Mother's Day, I'll come back and I'll let you know. And you can let me know where you are in healing the relationship between yourself and your mom is. Until we meet again.